you know, being just the one that has the big vision, the big dream is a lot of fun.
Really?
Yeah, don't underestimate it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Because then if it catches on like a wildfire, you go, oh, I'm the one that set that spark, but you don't have to tend the fire.
So you don't have to do all the work?
Yeah.
Oh. That's like a Tom Sawyer thing a little bit. Like,
yeah.
You got us doing the work, Santosha.
Well, have you done anything yet?
I've done a lot.
Okay. It's like Krishna, you know, he just sets up all the leelas and has the people come forward and they realize they want to do something that never occurred to them before. And that was like how Krishna worked as an avatar.
So you just said that you actually have fun?
Yeah, I wouldn't do anything if it wasn't fun. The drudgery days of the patriarchy are over.
Thank you, Mom!
We're not going to the factories anymore.
So you're not the Henry Ford of Enlightenment?
No. What did he do? Oh, he invented the Ford, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he got everybody to go into a mechanical education system, so they go into a mechanical job and be mechanically processed into death.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, the least job everybody likes is a factory job, right?
Right, that's the worst job.
That's the worst job, and people have their whole lifetimes as factory workers.
Mm-hmm. And then they unionize to defend that job and have the dignity to keep that job.
I know, and then people are offended when robots are invented to do it.
And that's happening, Mom.
I know. It's like that's like the worst job you can ever have. Why is that?
So how can we help more people have more fun?
Well, show them that their heart is here, already here as themselves. It comes from there. It comes from the heart.
So fun and the heart are related?
Yeah. Well, the heart is the innocence of everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ability to play. And
the ability to play, the ability to know you're connected and not disconnected, the ability to feel the awe and be a part of everything, mystery of life. That childlike period in your life is not just for children. It's your enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
So people mistake childhood freedom like that simple play, as just childhood period of your life, but it's actually your enlightenment. And you see how it's expressed in children, you know, and then you're kind of talked out of it. Or, you know, all the big drama, sustainability, and making a living and trying to get by weighs you down. So that natural enlightenment or the natural awe and the mystery of how you're connected and you're part of everything begins to diminish in that terrible drive to have your sex drive met, your sustainability met.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is so terrible.
Right, you get plunged into sexuality, there goes your innocence. You get plunged into survival, there goes your innocence.
But your innocence doesn't really go. It becomes suppressed.
Right. Yeah. We're under suppression.
Yeah. And the biggest suppression is, of course, the ego trip everyone's on to justify suppressing your innocence for sustainability and sexuality. So the argument is, I have to sustain, I have to reproduce, I have these drives. And so that the innocence of the awe and the mystery of your own heart and the livingness of that becomes justified that way. But it doesn't have to be. People can grow up with their innocence, you know, allowed to be lived and breathed as a natural life. They don't have to go through this terrible ordeal to get there, or live through a terrible oppressive system and overcome that system to get there.
There's
but
innocence.
This is the world we're in. This is what we got to work with. We didn't come into a special place that allowed all that to happen.
Right.
Yeah, we came into this. And so we started off feeling the mystery as a child, being to function here, we were trained to believe we had to suppress that, or that was just part of childhood. So we believed it. And then we felt that even though there's great wealth and great beauty here, we also felt extremely terrified of how to handle any of the suffering here.
Yes.
And so we were made stupid by suffering.
Yes.
And then we were driven to suppress our own natural capacity to be happy and play and to enjoy the dynamic of the already happy here, the divine. So that's the whole training here. It's just gone. And I assure you that in traveling in your spiritual journey, you will enter other dimensions or worlds that don't have that.
Right.
It's not like this. Yeah. So you sort of like, what's going on? That's why people like having spiritual experiences, because they experience a world where their own heart is allowed expression.
Right.
So, like I say, here, if you have a little bit of story of overcoming some minor aspect of some suppression of your heart, or some suppression of your body, or some suppression of your mind, it's like this big, incredible journey, but we never get to just the naturalness of being yourself. To become yourself here is like this big, dramatic journey to overcome your own, how shut down and oppressed your own heart is. So what if you started without that oppression?
Well, I haven't ever heard childhood described as enlightenment before.
Yeah.
Never. So I've heard it described as innocence, but to go all the way and say there was an enlightenment aspect to childhood.
Yeah. Well, don't you think there's enlightenment aspect to where you're now?
Yes.
And to old age?
Yes.
And to death?
Yes.
Yeah. So enlightenment is never excluded and never totally suppressed.
Right.
That it's visibility or its enjoyment. But you ascribe its visibility and enjoyment to other things, like seeing a beautiful woman or great art or something like that, instead of like enlightenment's coming forward. Yeah. So. All right. Any other questions?
Yes.
Look, he's got them all written down. That's pretty good.
I just want to back up a little bit and just say something personal, which is I wanted to thank you for the previous interview. That was really unexpected, how long you spent. And just for me personally, it fulfilled a desire or fantasy to have an intimate conversation with Adida or you. And I never got to have that, and I've never even heard a recording of anyone having that kind of dialogue with a realizer, ever. So
I don't know. Maybe I haven't either. I'm not sure.
I have not. I know I haven't. And so to me, this was an unprecedented, historic kind of exchange. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Just like
it just seems like a natural thing to do, a natural flow between what you needed and what I could give you. So it didn't seem like in any way unaccountable for. You can't do such a thing. But my example is you can live a happy life, wake up, live a happy life, recognize all as the sacred, and live here, even in an oppressive condition that's here.
Yeah.
And so if other people can dream that, it can happen, and that people will have their lives uniquely based on not some spiritual activism, but a life that fits their nature.
Right. You've been talking a lot about nature last night.
Yeah.
And even that surprises me a little bit because it seems non-transcendentalist to talk about an individual's nature.
Yeah.
And you're digging in all of us. What's your nature? What's your nature?
Well, my relationship with everyone developed over the years by assisting them in understanding and being able to use their nature as a means to go deeper in their enlightenment, to understanding their enlightenment, instead of it was the obstacle to their enlightenment.
Right, you got to get rid of it, get over it.
Yeah. What is the ego, anyways? But what is that? Is that identity at all?
It's just an action.
It's just an action. So if it's not your identity, what is your identity? You came in this life attracted and set on a
What
path.
is your identity?
Yeah.
So there's still identity to be had after awakening, or?
There's many identities you can have. You can play any role. You're an actor now.
Right,
Yeah.
because you were saying even Durga is an archetype for you?
Yes. Yeah. I can use that archetype. What is she? Durga represents coming because the male forces have used their knowledge and their power for vanity reasons, for selfish reasons, and dominated the happiness or the lives of other people. And so she comes to set that straight. So that's the archetype. Not we experiencing that right
Yes,
now?
yes,
we're
ma'am, we
experiencing that. Yeah. So everybody has a role they play because of their nature and their passion, and gets so if you're here for truth, for love, then your nature and your passion will find a way to determine the actions to serve that. So it's not like you squash your nature or your personality to do that. You use it, and as you use it, you say, "Oh, I'm an actress doing this. I'm not actually this. I'm an actress doing this." So if you said, "I'm going to take an acting part," no way. Whenever you're doing that, actors like say, "Oh, I became one with the character. I was just like that guy now."
Mm-hmm.
But they still want to go home and be not that guy.
Right. They want to have the option not to be that guy.
Yeah. and that's what enlightenment is, and that's what archetypes are, and that's what personality are. And in enlightenment, and Rama used to call it threshold personalities. So
what's that?
That's a term for using a nature or a persona to accomplish a work of enlightenment.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there real identity? Well, you can say, is there a real identity after enlightenment? I can say, do you have one now? What is it? I've never seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like aspects of my personality get more intense after awakening because they're not as suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And because
but that's your nature.
And they're still useful for stuff, too.
Yeah, so that your nature says, I love music.
Right, and that love gets more.
Yeah, so you say, I want to express enlightenment and show others enlightenment through music.
Yeah.
And other people say, well, I don't care about music, because that's not their nature. But if you do your job well enough, even the people who don't like music will go, wow, I feel something.
Yeah.
My nature doesn't feel suppressed, or who I am, this sense that could be the divine or the sacred is coming forward. So everybody has their job to do in their own way. So we can't clone, like go to the factory and clone spiritual aspirants or clone.
That's a great image. Yeah. That's funny, because cloning is a hot issue now.
Yeah.
It's actually coming up as a real thing.
Yeah, yeah. I know they clone animals and stuff. So
now they're finding that they've been cloning humans for decades.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. Well.
Especially famous people.
Oh, no.
So they can get a new version and control it. And
yeah, there's been some movies with those kind of plot lines. So.
Yeah, they're preparing us mentally for...
Yeah. Well, they have a right to dream, too. Everybody got to have a dream. And if the dream is not a good dream, it will have its consequences.
Right.
And so if your dream is the dream of empowerment, of enlightenment, and love and happiness for all beings, it will have its consequences.
Right.
So it always comes out, this is a dreaming vortex. It's not an actual place where real identity, it's everyone comes in with certain ideas and they want to play them out here. And everyone's acting them, but as they act them, they forget that they came to act them.
Right.
To find out if these are good ideas. They get stuck in it. Yeah.
Right.
So, things that you thought were really cool when you're younger, you go, oh, God. Right?
Right.
Yeah. And that's good. That means you're on a journey and you made mistakes and you learn from them. And you have to have experiences to learn. You can't go to somebody and say, oh, you're so powerful and great, let me just clone you, clone your behavior, clone your understanding.
One size fits all. Enlightenment.
Yeah. So, all right.
So I have a kind of an unusual proposal. I was wondering if we could convene a meeting of the firm and invite Adida and have him be present through my friend who's a psychic channel. Her name is Shira. And I've visited her with her 5 times and spoken to Adida through her and videotaped that and put it on YouTube, and you could see those if you like. But it is possible to convene a meeting with Adida and have him present through the channel and talk with you and him about the future of the Free Union of Renunciate Messengers. And it also is a little bit of wish fulfillment on my part to have you and Adida in the same room talking together in a way that we could all...
He's not here now?
Well, in a way that we could see, not just you.
Can you see him?
I see his picture.
You don't see him?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
You see him?
I do.
You see him?
Yeah.
And how do you see him?
Well, I'm always seeing him. I'm always visualizing him in various moods, and I've got thousands of images of him that I'm always resorting to. But depending on the mood and the flavor of the moment, I might see him older, younger, and stern or happy.
What's he doing now?
He's happy and kind of mischievous to me, like I feel like he wants to play with all of us, and he's looking. I'm trying to give him ways to play with you all through this
and
creative.
You can play back with him. He's not used to it, but he could get used to it and enjoy it.
There you go, because I'm trying to break through that crust.
Yeah,
old patterns of Adidam and anything.
Well, the power dynamic, the way it went, and that experiment had a very strong power dynamic to it. And no one was able to break out of it. So no one could quite put their finger on it, because that's kind of like Durga's job. The archetype of Durga is like, wait a minute, this is not cooperation and sharing, this is power dynamic, and the consequences of power dynamic are very mixed, but mostly not good. So whatever failed in the experiment of happy people generating their own lives of enlightenment because of his work and support and blessing and teaching is not there. It's just not happening. And I hope it starts to happen. But if I say what I'm saying, maybe it'll inspire people to.
Yes.
I've had these feelings or this impulse, I'm going to go do it now.
Right.
I'm not waiting to bond or fit into something and then try to get it in there.
Right.
Because it's never going to work that way. Yeah, it's never going to work that way.
Well, that's kind of what I've done too in my artistic musical life. There was a time when I tried to get into Adidam, and I did a big service, and then still got rejected. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going back to rock and roll. Because at least in rock and roll, I can self-determine my creative destiny and expression and how I want to affect people without getting the buy-in or approval or permission.
The power dynamic.
The power dynamic of Adidam or anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's been really hard to not get support sometimes.
Yeah, it is hard sometimes. But everything you do that works is all your own. You done it.
Right, like I'm the man and I own my achievements.
Yes, and not only that, you learn a hell of a lot more than if you didn't do it that way.
Yeah, I feel like I'm containing knowledge of rock that I give to the youth that I teach and their families, and it's valued.
Yeah, so it goes that way. So you become more of who you can be that way, So it's not really rejection. It's almost like kicking you out. So, like you live with a real rich dad, and he's really nice. And he always supports your impulses and everything. And one day, through some reason,
like
you're
that.
kicked out, and you're like... And so, with that depth of love, which is your love for Adida and his love for you, and the transmission of that, you have what you need yourself. So you go out and develop your own nature and your own impulse. And so whatever you learn, you become the giver or the leader or the teacher or the helper or the supporter of that. Yeah. So it always seems like when you're just getting out there and having to go on your own, like a rejection, but as you continue your life and you don't let your heart crumble by that or be broken by that, you go, wait a minute, here's what I actually did, here's what I can do. And then you begin to look at your passion, your love for enlightenment, and you say, well, no matter what happens, good or bad, my love for enlightenment can never crumble.
Right.
Yeah.
I said you're never disabled in this turning.
Yeah, that's right. You never are. So that would be an interesting thing to do, but what would you want to do in it?
Have the chance to have my fantasy of Adida and you and us together playing. And then I want to read notes from the firm and say, how?
Yeah.
When?
Okay.
Who?
Yeah. And what is the firm supposed to do?
The Free Union of Renunciate Messengers is supposed to be a safe place for all the renunciates of the world from all the traditions.
Well, we have it right here in this room right now. Yeah. So if anybody else wants, like I said, anybody can come Friday night and anybody can sit in this room.
Thank you. So then that's where we could come.
Yeah. Well, in my story writing, that's what I'm trying to create.
Yes.
I'm writing part 2 of the Unified Field of Love, which who's it basically loosed on?
No.
Characters?
Tell me.
Well, Polygon is basically loosed on Tripura.
Okay.
Andy's basically loosed on Gangaji. And Sarah is basically loosed on Sarada.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm writing another version of that story, another level of that story. So it's like they don't know it, but at the end of the story, they meet God apart. If you read that story, they go on that journey. They feel compelled in their life, like God apart represents everybody's idea that God is apart. So he actually uses that name and comes down here to do some work, and you don't know what this work is. And he finds this young woman who's assistant. She's a photographer, and her name's called Oasis, and they had a document. He asked her to document, and she's very attracted to him and wants to do that work.
Yeah.
And so meanwhile, the 3 other characters are based on those women. they have a sense that the one regret in their life that they never met him or the God man,
Right.
Adida.
Right.
So they have this overwhelming intuition that he's present right now, and they can't fathom how that can be. But Andy and Sarada communicate with each other and find each other. But Sarada has this very condescending relationship because she believes the Western Vedanta is just wannabe bullshit.
Right.
Yeah. And she doesn't respect it. And Andy knows that, but she also feels that if they got together, they would succeed at doing this, and that in their heart, they both always wanted to meet the God man.
Yeah.
And of course, they got apart because they always saw him as apart, and that always prevented them from meeting him in their heart.
Right.
So they go on this journey. Yeah. They go on the journey together, and they're trying to get along with each other.
Trying to.
And Polly 1's going through her stuff, and she feels like she has like this insistent voice of the mother kept telling her, you're going to have to go this, you're going to have to go do this, you're going to have to leave the island, you're going to have to... And she knows she wants to do it, but she feels that everything that she's secure with of her spiritual identity is all set in one place on the island.
That's right.
But she can't not resist it, so she goes out looking for the manifestation of the God-man because she feels like if he's manifesting again, she has to see him again because her whole life is built around her love of him as a person.
Incarnate.
As well as so she feels she has to go,
Yeah.
and how they all converge and what happens. That's the story. So I'm writing part 2 of that story.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I recommend reading it.
All right.
Well, I just want to say that I have your book here, and I printed it out at the copy store, and so I'm trying to get ready for you to publish your own book. And I was wondering, this is my next question. Let's see where. You've written these incredible stories. Let the Revolution Begin, The Wild Wild West, or The Wild West of Enlightenment, The Heart Whisper of Creation, the Unifying Field of Love, and One True Tribe. It seems to me, from what I've read so far, that your writings could have wide appeal and effect.
Oh, that's good.
Could we make a lovely book of your writings to sell? And what about a script to make the book into an animated movie like Avatar or Star Wars?
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could
Which
be.
story are you talking about as a movie?
Well, I have to read them to understand how, do they fit
I know,
together as one
I
big
know.
story? Or is
Well,
it...
Let the Revolution actually has
It
3
is.
parts. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the Wild West.
Oh, the Wild West
Wild
has 3
West.
parts.
Wild West.
Yeah.
That's very visual.
Yeah, Let the
too.
Revolution hasn't gotten its second part yet. But the Unified is getting its second part now.
So it might be multiple movies, like there's multiple Star Wars?
Yeah.
And some of the characters cross into the other stories.
That's right.
Well, that's perfect, because that's how they like it in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it'd be
Spin-offs and...
What I'm doing is just creating the biggest story, the bigger dream, instead of like, okay, here's some repression, you overcome it somehow, but you're still living in a world where the heart is suppressed, but your own little version of it is a little less suppressive. I'm saying, what if you dreamt enlightenment here and people were living here, but you're going to have to go through something to have that life or to live it, and what's the dynamic of how the divine brings that about? How does that happen? How does it take different individuals or different archetypes and use them to move everyone towards what their heart really needs to live and wants to live? How does that happen? So I'm trying to account for that through story, and it's very it's fun, but it is a funny challenge to do it because first of all, I know I'm writing from a point of view that no one has actually ever imagined.
Right, so you're out in the pioneer area.
Yeah, no one has imagined it. So if the story, I know that Neil and Mike are using some of my story or my characters or my ideas and putting them in comics now.
Yeah,
So they're doing that. So,
great.
Yeah.
I love comics.
Yeah. So we can keep going with that. As far as myself, I'm just trying to be busy writing them.
So she's the artist.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get on a book, maybe?
Yeah.
Like a book of this book, of her writings. But I don't know when it's done enough to release.
I know, that's surprising.
So maybe we could do
Work
volumes
hard.
or something, but
Yeah.
it's just so fun to make books.
Yeah.
Books are so fun and beautiful, and this has to be a great book,
Mm-hmm.
or multiple books, but this seems like this is already ready for prime time, and my little Hollywood guy in my brain just sees how this could work as scripts, and how visual this is, and how good it is for like Pixar type animation and the high level computer graphics, where they're so good at making characters now.
Yeah.
They have real actors turned into CG characters,
Yeah.
and then they can be anything you can imagine.
Yeah, I'm all for just keep going with it. Like I said, the stories themselves are having other stories, so when do we just pick it up and
Yeah.
present it?
Mm-hmm.
So that is, but I know the Wild West has 3 parts, and I think it's pretty much settled in for now.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to do another part
Good, okay.
for a long while. So
That's a place to start.
yeah.
One thing we started to do, and I want to do, is to just get us together to recite the story
Oh,
out
that-
loud.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And
Well,
Spencer was doing
you
that
did
this
so.
morning. What were you reading?
The third part of Wild West of Enlightenment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just hearing it spoken out
Yeah,
loud.
you have a nice speaking voice.
He's got a great speaking voice for that. It's for the
Yeah.
male parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've got plenty of talent amongst your students to just do very cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just reciting it plain in
Well,
front of
he's
the camera.
working. Tell him what you're working on.
I'm working
Radio.
on like a radio version of Let the Revolution Begin. You know,
That's
so-
perfect, like an old style radio with like sound
With
effects.
sound
and-
effects and music and people, all the people in the circle
Awesome.
reading all the parts.
Garrison Keillor used to do some kind of thing like that, and there I think will be endless appeal for that format. People will never get over that homespun radio experience, sitting by the fireside chat.
Well, I think people. When I used to walk in the forest with my students, and they were tired and getting grumpy, I used to make up stories.
We were telling them the greatest story ever.
That's how young boomers and young
And that makes
boomers.
Yeah, sometime at the Macy's on the
Yeah.
Fresno, and then it's just
Yeah.
walking in and the create.
Yeah, we just start telling stories to get everybody through their experience and keep their attention focused instead of
Happy way.
wandering and making mistakes and falling down or whatever happens. Some people here just start falling down.
Well, I feel like your stories and Arida's Orpheum trilogy with the Mummery book, the Happenine book, and the Scapegoat book are so perfect for whole generations of movies
Mhm.
and comic books.
Oh, there's a lot, a lot
And
of
radio
And then
shows.
there's also, I felt that once I showed people how to dream bigger, that they would write from that bigger perspective too. And-
Because art, I mean,
yes, because people want it. People want to dream or create the biggest dream possible,
Yes,
but no one feels they have the psychological permission to do so.
So
Exactly.
true.
right.
They don't. They say, "Well, I'll tell a story about Civil War, and the slaves finally got freed, and then what do they do then?" And
Then what?
yeah, then
Yeah.
what? It's never really a great story where people come into not only their empowerment in their own life, but their own happiness
Right.
and love. So I want to write these stories to give people that you can dream big and you can write and create that big. And so your own art or your own expression or your own writing or whatever it is, how you want to share that and show that and envision that for others, it's okay. You can do it. Even if it's hard to imagine,
But I think it's happening. Like there's a new
I think
movie
it's
out
happening
about
now,
Mary
too.
Magdalene.
Yeah.
Are you aware?
Really? No, is it out?
It's a big
Yeah, I heard it's
production
coming out.
with Joaquin Phoenix as Jesus and Rooney Mara as Mary Magdalene.
Oh, Rudy.
Rooney Mara as Mary Magdalene, and I just saw some previews of it, and Joaquin Phoenix just looks great as Jesus, and they're finally giving Mary Magdalene prime time
Yeah.
Yes.
as the goddess or as a goddess figure, equal to Jesus, or at
Yeah,
least
as a true sage.
as a true sage with Jesus.
Yeah.
So I see some of the other mythical franchises of the West starting to crumble.
Mhm.
Like the Star Wars franchise got bought by Disney, and they just turned it into Satanism. They corrupted it. And the Matrix movies, they started out absolutely right on, spot on, and then they kind of degenerated because I believe they couldn't really tell us the truth without getting killed.
And and it's scary to really stand up for the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. You know, the first movie when I saw that Matrix many years ago, and I was in a theater and it was just a couple of people. I think Jeremiah was with me. And as I watched it, I said, this is everything that Rama taught me in this movie.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
And I just felt like that's what he wanted to say in the first movie. And all the, you know, Neo's whole journey,
Yeah.
you know, and how he comes to terms with, you know, the identity of the one and the illusion of that,
Yes.
and his actual embodiment of what it is to be the one.
Yes.
Yeah. So all that changes and adaptations he had to go through, and the power that he had not to believe, like the Matrix is, you know, all illusion that we're being presented with, and how he knew it was an illusion, and that's how he was empowered. But everybody thinks some of this is real. And so that's where you lose your power. So any of it really matters, except for the heart. You lose your power. So that movie, I said, wow. But I didn't think the other two lived up to the first one.
Mhm.
In that.
But I think your book and the Orpheum trilogy are where those franchises left off.
Mhm.
And we could build these out
Mhm.
and give the people the bigger dream that you talk of, so that they're not just stuck at this sort of messed up halfway dream.
Yeah. Like all we have is give peace a chance.
Right.
What?
But then what's
We are peace. We're living peace. Come on, demonstrate it. You know.
right?
Instead of like somehow. Well, I was giving James a teaching about love today, and he was thinking in his head that he would go home and affirm this, and then go ahead and do it. And I said, no, it's right this moment that you give it, that you're vulnerable to it.
Yeah.
And that's how you experience it, and that's how you learn it. That's how your body-mind says, I'm getting this now. I can feel it. I can feel the effects immediately. But if you go in your room to study the teaching or the explanation, you lost it. You don't have it. You have to, like, now do something immediately. So that's what, he was, like, kind of shocked, right? You're like, I gotta do something right now?
Yeah.
Because that's where it happens, in the bravery to have that vulnerability right now. So I'll go home and figure out how to really be vulnerable sometime in the future. That's seeing love through power dynamic and not through actual spontaneous impulse to love.
Right.
You know, to allow it, and even if it's goofy, dumb, wonderful, you're going to learn how to experience it.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn. You know, so, and like I said, I think last night I might have mentioned that I got an email from Free Dallas, and they're doing a conference on happiness, but they're going to take you through teaching you about how you're unhappy and how you're doing it. And I was like, I would really rather go and see people really happy
Right.
Right.
and show me that and live that with me in the moment. I go, wow, that was so fun. I went and saw these people. They're really happy. They get a meeting about it happy, and I really had fun with them. That's what I would want. I don't want to study something about why we're not happy to get to happiness and go home and study it some more. But that's kind of what spiritual teaching has degenerated to in the power dynamic way of looking at
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And I'm sure throughout the history, the life of sages and their devotees wasn't that life. It was a life where, you know, they loved their master, and the master loved them, and they were, you know, put in situations where they had to live and express that all the time.
Right.
And as they lived and expressed it, their life grew deep, and not, you know. So yeah. So I thought that was kind of ironic. I think they're trying a new angle, but I don't know if it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work.
Angle it a little bit.
Angle a little bit, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like going to an event for direct, immediate transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. Not deferring till later or working on it to get
Yeah.
there or
Well, my approach to meditation when I was younger, and when I was about 19, was that I would sit and meditate till I felt I really had a genuine experience. So I was not just going to sit and quiet my mind or struggle or say, I have a discipline in doing meditation every day. I was going to actually sit there till I felt a real genuine experience. So that's how I worked. And then when I met other people and they had this whole pattern of meditating for years and not really ever having a real movement of deepness with it, because they always said, basically, I'm going to sit here and quiet my mind a bit and hope that has a great benefit for me somehow. And they assumed that the more years they put into that, without any real deepening or process, that they would be rewarded, or they're entitled. It's like putting your time in the marriage and calling that love.
Paying your dues.
Paying your dues, yeah. But to do anything, you really have to actually do it.
Or achieve it. Or
Yeah, you actually, like, if you want to really paint, you don't talk about painting and watch a lot of people painting. You got to paint. Yeah, and that's the same thing with meditation. So you let yourself off the hook before you've actually painted the tree, or actually really had what you feel is genuine experience, then you're not really doing it. You're not going to ever get a genuine experience that way. So my kind of idea about people in meditation was they didn't really want to meditate. No, they didn't really want to do it. They wanted enlightenment. The same way people love sports, but they don't actually play sports.
Why didn't they want meditation?
Well, the same way people love sports and they love music, they don't actually play instruments.
Oh, they don't want to get in the field and get bruised.
Yeah, go through what it takes. Yeah, but everybody feels like those things are really good. I want to have.
They
a
value the
relationship.
sports. They value excellence in sports, but
Yeah.
they don't necessarily go out and give their body to it.
No. In fact, they can sit and get all the stats and judge everybody who does.
They
and,
love all those great meditators and enlightened
Yeah.
guys, and
Yeah, but
Okay.
they don't actually get in the field. Yeah, so. But if you did get in the field, then you would actually experience it, and you could be one of those guys later on. But
a legend.
a legend. Any other questions?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So
So you want me to commit to that, to having that meeting? You said.
I would like to orchestrate that meeting with you and Adida and have a webinar even with the psychic on the webinar.
Oh yeah.
And
Where does she live?
She lives in Alameda, near
the Bay
Oakland,
Area.
in the Bay Area, and she's my first ex-wife.
Oh, she is. Huh.
And so I have a really good emotional connection with her. So when we bring in Adida, it's like tears, and even though she's not a devotee, she's very open emotionally
Mhm.
to him.
Mhm.
So it really works. Like
Is she a psychic and practices that as her livelihood with other people? Or?
she's a child psychologist,
Oh,
but she is one of the world's best channels, and
Yeah.
she doesn't do it professionally, but I did it with her for years. When
Yeah.
we were married, we channeled my dad all the time, Stan,
Mhm.
who died in 1980. And everyone from Kurt Cobain to John Lennon to Marilyn Monroe to Jesus Christ, everyone that we loved, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, I would ask the questions and she would channel.
Oh, so everybody wanted to talk to her.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they would just come around when we didn't ask.
Oh yeah.
We'd be making love and someone would be coming around like...
That happens. There's always vibrations around everywhere. Yeah.
So I wouldn't bring her into your company unless I thought she was totally upstanding. And,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens and see if that works out.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, 'cause
Thank
it
you for
depends on her
even
as
even
well,
the
too.
possibility of that. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah. In terms of, have you ever thought of giving transmission sittings with people who want to just get really zapped by you?
Have I thought about it?
Or have you done that?
I
Or,
used to do a lot of gazing with people. Over the
yeah,
years,
the more where
haven't-
people come in with the agreement to really go deep with you
Mhm.
and meditate as far deep as they can with you.
Hasn't occurred to me to try that again. But I'm not opposed to anything. I just have to feel the sincerity.
Well, I'm up for it personally. Like, I'd like to be in the room with you and see what you do when you do that, and
Yeah.
and then see what other
And of
people.
course, those guys don't want to do that.
I bet if you give them the opportunity.
Do you notice that? True, she just really looks like you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's growing up so fast. Like
Yeah.
suddenly she's like, I mean, I've been gone a month and a half, and her head's all big, and my eyes are all over.
Yeah, and she's rolling around the floor.
She's all over the place. Aggression.
She's got that Durga
Yes.
straightforwardness going on. Yeah, but I when I see her, I think she's the person I gaze at the most right now.
Right.
When I see her, and I come into the room and things are going on in the room, but she sees me and we look at each other and it's just like locked. And she gives people that kind of gaze, and she she wants that gaze from me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people just feel I'm kind of too intense for them, so they're like, yeah, tone it down a bit. So.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. And my close devotees, we used to meditate that way in the earlier years, and we did that actually for a long time. And after a while, I said, well, show me what you can do. You know. So like you said, if there's a commitment to that growth,
Yeah.
it has to be there. And they've grown up in a lot of ways, but there's still further growth to keep happening that will mature this process for them. So I can totally trust them. So I don't feel like they're just out to get their own independent lives and their ego version of it fulfilled anymore. So that's kind of by the wayside.
So you made some progress with your students?
Yeah. You guys feel you made progress?
Yes.
All
Thanks
right.
to you.
Yeah. Call them the Motley Crew.
They made some good songs.
Yeah.
That band.
Oh, good. Yeah, so, like I said, we're all old, and we look at our life now and say, this is where we've arrived, and we have gratitude for it and appreciate it, and then there's the possibility of dreaming bigger, and to dream your enlightenment here, to fully wake up. And how that's going to appear, though, is not, a cookie-cutter factory spiritual life that's going to happen.
As you've said, we each have a nature that we can use for our enlightenment.
Amazing.
That's cool.
So if the ego is not an identity, it's only an activity,
Yes.
then you don't have to worry about overcoming the ego. 'Cause it's
You
not
don't
an
have to
identity.
overcome an activity. I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
You just don't want to do it. You do want to do something else. And if you follow your nature and your attractions, and because you're generating it, then you're also responsible for it. And you're also say, I want this is my passion, I want it to succeed. So when you make mistakes, you get back up on the horse and you see if your ego was in the way, your contraction around it, because everything is for enlightenment, it's not for your personal gain. And that's what you figure out along the way, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Everything's for enlightenment. The world is enlightenment, everything is enlightenment, and enlightenment is playing this game with all of us, and enlightenment chooses different vehicles and archetypes and personalities and natures to accomplish enlightenment. And so everyone gets to evolve. There's no other game going on. There's no, the dark side's going to win. That's the game. That's just to make the game of enlightenment more juicy and fun.
And maybe motivate them.
And motivate people. Yeah. So I don't know if you ever said, what's my worst mistake? And what did I learn from it? If you learn from it, it's like one of your precious little gems of knowledge that you have for yourself. And that you can, if you meet another type that has the same nature, that suffers the same egoic, difficulty with their nature, you can say, listen, I understand this because here's my experience. And I learned how to live in my nature and my passion, but use it in a way that serves real happiness, not egoic vanity. Not the sense that I'm creating my own kingdom and my own happiness and my own special point in time and all that ideas that people have. And imagine such a terrible idea as that, and that people really believe it's good. That everyone's here to be like some special, magical, important, on top of the heap, special me person. That is like the worst idea ever. Like, where did that idea come from? We don't know, but we're born into the situation where we're fed it like honey or candy, and we're like, oh, get away. Who are you going to be? Somebody special when you grow up? Yes, I think so. And then when you find out just the job of sustainability and trying to get by and be okay in the relatable field is taking all your time and energy, and you're like, oh, and it gets pretty heavy and depressing.
Yeah.
But we've been born into certain ideas and we never inspect them. So if you inspect them, you get on your own journey. So if somebody else says, I don't have to buy that. So what would it be to be like really happy and really full of love without any of that power dynamic of being on top and being looked up to or achieving or better than others, or other people have sacrificed for you, for your happiness, but you don't have to sacrifice anything for their happiness. What would it be, not to believe any of that? What would it be just to be happy anyways and love and feel that everyone you see is part of the sacred plan and is on a sacred journey? What would that be like? Now that's real satisfaction and happiness, not the other thing. But we'd like to believe that the divine is just a bunch of hokey, hippie stuff.
Hippie stuff.
Hippie stuff, and love and happiness is just a nice, hippie stuff.
Hippie stuff.
Yeah, and it's just dumb. But no, their belief is dumb. That belief, the original belief is dumb. Because it's okay to knock it down, but what if somebody actually manages to live it and achieve it as reality? Then you're like, yeah, maybe it's alright. Maybe my idea is wrong. So a lot of people have come and gone in my life who wanted to take my happiness and my love and use it to succeed at their power dynamic, and none of it's ever worked. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm sure that's happened to other teachers and Ida as well. It didn't work, So if you live free of that idea, then any mistake you make is okay. You just say, okay, that didn't work. What's going to work now? Instead of feeling so defeated, and then you're thrown back to the bottom of the rung of the power dynamic, like I'm a loser,
That's what happened to my generation in the 90s. There was a slacker loser movement in music. And low self-esteem became a go-to of that culture. But in a way it was liberating because it was at least acknowledging up front that we were feeling that way.
But you have to go to the next step.
Then you got to go next steps. And that's where music didn't go because it was suppressed.
Yeah, I think there's some good music now, do you?
Since 2000, I saw a drastic dropping off and decadence in the culture, so that there's been a handful of A-list songs since 2000.
I like what some people in the folk are doing. They're hitting up against the edge of the ego culture and singing songs that... presenting this feeling of the divine beyond that.
Yes.
So there's different people going on and different artist types and movies, but nobody has the experience of really living it, that dynamite. But they have a intuition and a sense of what is, the original idea. You come here to get fulfilled personally and get on top of the power dynamic. That idea is crumbling in different creative artist types and probably in other fields, but that's my field mostly. So I'm sure it's crumbling in other fields as well, that people feel like, that dynamic's not really the truth. But as far as being able to live beyond the effects of that dynamic, that's harder. It's harder for people. So.
I wanted to say something about your art. And for me personally, I came to Adida through his art. And in 2001, I got a phone call from a friend saying that Adida was presenting his art to the world, and that they wanted people in the art world to come see it. And since I'd been promoting this painter named Warner Williams only for about a year at that point, I actually had some experience in the art world that would cause people in Adidam to call me. If I had not had any experience in the art world, I don't believe I would have gotten any call. And I would not have been able to become a devotee under vow.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Both were. Wow.
So I ascribe Adida's art as being the reason I became his devotee. And without his art coming into the public sphere, I don't believe I could have come to him.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so hard to get to the community. There was no other avenue in to his realm to get under vow, and I wanted to be under vow. I wanted to be in Adidam. I wanted to make sure I really got in before he died, and that I believe would not have happened without his art getting out into the world. So that's my experience. That's where I'm coming from in terms of how I got to awakening, how I got to be a devotee of Adida, and I project that now onto my experience of your art, because I wonder what it would be like for people in the world to get exposure to your art in a sacred context, not just a commercial one. And maybe they would get drawn in to awakening the way I was through your art. And so I can't help, and just since I'm in the art world, and it's natural for me to want to see great art get out there, I feel impulse to help you make an art book, a lovely book.
Well, Yesco's going to work on doing an original one that she's going to actually physically make
Yeah,
right now.
good, okay.
So I'm going to create a file for that book and print things out. If in time and over a period of time, the project to make a book and publish a book is there, the file will be ready. There'll be a file ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have so many images.
Oh yeah, thousands and thousands.
Adida organized his images into suites that were titled, and that was one way to organize this vast body of work. How are you going to organize your work and present it?
I don't really seem to have a particular problem with that. There's portraits, landscapes, collage, spiritual collages. There's poetry with collages. There's abstracts and doodles. So kind of like that.
Great, that helps
already
me
done,
so much
yeah.
just to get that,
It's already done. Yeah.
just the way I think in terms of arts and archiving and cataloging and indexing and legacy. How does this, and then making it public.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of my art has my own portrait in it, and I've always, over the years, felt, why did it go that way?
Why did you go that way?
Yeah. And when I went to visit Georgia O'Keeffe's place and her work, and was later reading Frida Kahlo's life, I had the intuition that Frida showed her life, her suffering, in her work, in her painting. And it was very difficult for people to view it, but it gave a voice to that suffering. And it gave a voice to people quietly suffering. And that was... you know, like the artist gives a voice to people where they can't find a means to live their happiness or to express their suffering. It gives a voice, as music does as well. So I said, oh, well, that's why I did a lot with my self-portrait, because I was here to show happiness.
Yes.
Yes, that's perfect.
And
That's what we need.
I couldn't just put a whole bunch of other people in there randomly because they're not that. They're not living, or they're not the actual image of that. So instead of trying to use them as a symbol of it, I said, why don't I use the actual reality
Of it.
Yeah. And so that's what happened.
Well, it's super generous of you to do that.
Yeah.
And vulnerable and everything artistic
yes.
that's good that
Yeah,
you did
you
that.
get to see everything about my life in it.
Whew.
Yeah, and everything I've done artistically, you get to see everything in my life.
Mhm.
And so how people want to put that life together as a story, as an inspiration for their own journey to their awakening, I imagine and hope that it's really helpful for them. So.
Well, I was blessed to experience Adida's mummery play and its most advanced expression before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a theater in the round, and he used projections of his art on all these screens all over the place, and on these sculptures that were white, so the image would project on an unusual surface. And so he has thousands and thousands of images from his art, and while the mummery play was being enacted, the images would be projected on the screens and onto the actors.
Mm-hmm. Huh?
And there was even like live musicians playing. It was a complete theatrical presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the art, you got the stories,
Yeah.
you got everything like he does to do a similar kind of theatrical presentation at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just you just given all the stuff
Yeah.
to do stuff.
Yeah, it's all there, and it's all there for anyone who their nature matches and their impulse to dream bigger is there, that they could cooperate and share it. So I'm really into that, and I hope after I pass out of the body that what I've left behind is, enlivened more. That people participate in their own way, bringing their own dynamic to
Right.
it, their own nature, and if I ever come back thousands of years from now, I don't really recognize it, but I feel I'm really happy from it, then that's cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure that your legacy continues.
I don't really care about legacy.
Well, I do.
You do? Okay. Well, that's what, different types come in. everyone comes and says, this is what I can bring to the table, this is what I need to do, this is what I want to do, this is how my journey I can learn and grow in, and there's a sharing cooperation that goes on instead of a hierarchy dynamic. So that's why pretty much I put everything on the website. My book is free. You can read it on the website if you want, or download it.
Yes.
And people can even write and say they want a copy. We'll send it to them for free. You know. So I'm not here to try to create a viable institution that's making a good living and everybody gets to be a monk and sits in the puja temple all day. I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is that everybody's going to generate a dynamic life for themselves and have a cooperative and shared relationship in a process of empowering themselves and living the heart, that we can live it here. And if I can live it here, then why not? Why not
Right.
other people?
That's right.
There's a lot, like I said, the original programming that you're given, the disposition towards ego fulfillment, and a kind of naive and childish reaction against suffering has caused people to be really controlled and not able to dream big and not go forward. So I'm here to break that up, and whoever comes along and says, wow, that's been my intuition, and I want to do what I can, and there's what I know or what I understand or what I want to give.
Mhm.
And I'm really open to all that. So.
Can I say one more thing about the art?
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed to experience Adida's art suites presented when he was alive, and some of them would have hundreds of images per suite, and he would do a big projection on 3 screens, and you would see the images go across the screens from left to right, and they were like the most exalted slideshows I've ever seen. And it took the idea of an art slideshow to this new level, and there would be loud music playing,
Mm-hmm.
and a big blackened out space interior, you know, like you're completely immersed in that art. And I saw maybe 15 of those suites, and I think he's got like 60.
Wow. Okay.
And I got the experience of being immersed in hundreds of art images from the guru.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing. That works. That's a cool experience.
Yeah.
And I'm frustrated now that the many great suites of Adida's image art are sitting in archives unexposed to people when they could make these slideshows into YouTube movies and put them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we could make slideshows of your art and put them on YouTube, and then have events where we show the slideshows on a big screen with invited friends.
Mm-hmm. That's a possibility.
Because you're like Adida, you have so much art.
Yeah.
And the people can't see it even 1% right now.
No. Well, they see what I put on the website.
And that's just a teeny tiny less than 1%. So imagine the power, because I got to experience that power.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying, can we not share that with the maximum numbers?
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, because you're telling me the experience that you gained from it, that the value it has for you, and I don't get that feedback. So I just do it, put a little bit out there, do some more, just go out and do some more. You know, keep going with my next impulse, my next attraction, and so I don't really have a life where I see that it's touching people and they're having a response to it. I don't have that life. I don't see that life. I know, you know, Yesko probably saw most of my art. She's
Right.
framed most of it, so she'll see it. But you know, nobody else does. And some people actually see a piece and they didn't even know I ever did that one. They say, "Oh,
I don't know.
you don't know all of it."
Not
No,
all of
yeah,
it.
nobody
knows all your work.
Amazing
No,
amount.
nobody knows all of it.
Mm.
I don't think you do, huh, James? You know.
I know how it is. Like, your art is too prolific.
Mhm.
Even my art's too prolific. Nobody knows all my art.
Mhm.
And so that's why I know it's important, just from my own experience.
Yeah.
And because I'm an artist out in the world, performing all the time, I'm in that cycle.
Mhm.
I see how it works. I see how it could work
Yeah.
for you.
Well, and you're a musician type, so you go out and perform, so you see a response.
I see a response.
Yeah.
And I see it with my students that I teach too. So it's like, I need it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the cycle of it, and
Yeah.
and my personality is dependent even on that energy.
For me, just being able to follow next attraction and continue the work and do the work, given that there's no cooperation with it directly, you know, that's what I kept going with.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
as time goes by and I'm getting older, if there is actually a real need to respond to it that would empower people to dream their enlightenment, to dream bigger, then yeah, I would. And I know after seeing Georgia O'Keeffe's life, and being very intimate, going to her house
Yeah.
and she lived and all that, and I said, well, whether she liked it or not, she was an icon for women who said, I want to dream bigger. I want to be an artist, and I want to be able to express what beauty or love or true art is for me. I want to be able to be on that journey and do it. I don't want to, just fit into some art world or some survival idea or some lack of opportunity to do it even,
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came back from that experience, I said, well, I am that icon too, not just icon of being an artist, but an enlightened woman.
Yes.
Artist, and breaking.
Yes.
In the early years, I did my sister gave me this little plaque, this little picture of Mary, and my friend, one of my other devotees, made a little, like religious doorway. You open it up and you see Mary. And then I took that and I put my image on Mary.
Yes.
And then I've done like a repeat of that throughout my life, and then now I just call it Self-Realization Mary.
Aw.
So what I'm doing is empowering Mary to have the opportunity for the life or the realization itself. Instead of being the mother of God, she is actually the realizer.
The realizer of God and the transmitter of God.
So that's what I did with that. And then the stories of Mary Magdalene have come out over the years.
Yes.
And so there's more of a kind of honoring of that possibility.
Yeah.
So that's how I worked one way with it. So I was working my art with breaking up certain ideas too. Yeah. So like I said, going to see Georgia O'Keeffe, I didn't say whether I like it or not. I said it's fine. I don't mind being the inspiration or the role model or the icon or the archetype for people to dream their enlightenment, to live, free and happy.
Yeah.
I don't mind
You
it.
don't mind that.
No, I don't really think it's going to interfere with my ability to live it. Really.
To be the artist and be the
Yeah.
awakened being.
Yeah, I don't need to be on an island and test people to come to me. Anybody who shows up is coming here for the right reason. And because there's nothing they have to go through. They're giving everything right from the beginning. It's up to what they want and what they're going to do, what their own nature and their own impulse is. So I don't really have to discipline or corral any of that. It can just be organic and spontaneous. And
Well, cool. I'm glad that you're willing to do that and feel that you can do that.
I've done a lot of work with fashion as well, and I've gone to different stores, and over the years I built relationships with different people, and there's been times where, this one man just came up to me and said, "Are you a guru? Are you a spiritual teacher?" Like
Yeah.
he said, "Just send something about you." And we talked a little bit, and at the end of it, and I helped him with his journey, and at the end I admitted I was, and he said, "I knew it."
That's great recognition.
Yeah. So when an ordinary person sees that you're not an ordinary ego just struggling around, but that you're actually going out and transmitting another state, and they recognize that's really like incredible.
Yes.
That's an incredible story to me, rather than you read a teacher's book and you're all prepared and you have to do all these things and and show up, and that someone can just walk through life and have this intuition that the sacred is before them, or this is a sacred moment that they're having. And I love when that happens, when those people occur,
Yeah.
or that element happens. And I've had it with animals.
Yes.
I've had it with landscapes
Yes.
and places.
Yes.
And, so everything is waiting and listening for that. And so, eventually someone does show up that is the living embodiment of that. And everyone is, but how deep are you? And how open are you? And how much are you transmitting that? That's the differences in people, So. Any other questions? Wow.
Do you have room for one more?
Yeah. Okay.
You've been speaking of Earth too in your writings,
Yeah, that's been fun.
and we've talked about the firm as a possible new development on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else being talked about on the internet right now. People are saying that the Earth is going to evolve any moment now, or is in the process of evolving from third-dimensional Earth to fifth-dimensional Earth.
And what does that mean?
that the Earth is ascending.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth herself is waking up, becoming conscious, and shaking off all the old patterning that is restricting her and poisoning her. And there might even be a bifurcation between the 3D Earth going its own way and the 5D Earth going her own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to get your... Well, I wanted to try
So those
to...
ideas are out there. That's
These
interesting.
ideas are kind of
Yeah.
floating around, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you got the firm, you got Earth 2, you've got a 5-dimensional ascended Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got what you've talked about as an egoless age, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to get any feedback you have on all this. I don't even have a question so much as like all this stuff is swirling. For
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I've had different, part of my work has been directly in the natural element with the earth. And I've, for many years, have said the earth is my, closest devotee.
Oh.
And
Can you believe? I'm sorry, Peter. Can you believe this?
so the earth has led me on to many journeys in which I've hiked, traveled, and been in a lot of wilderness, and has revealed to me that the earth is aware. It is self-aware, and it is aware. Its happiness and its ability to enjoy its self-awareness is linked to human beings.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Its ability to enjoy its self-awareness and its happiness is linked to human beings.
Linked.
It
Oh.
wants human beings to know that.
Oh.
So that's why we all have a sense of responsibility to the earth, but we think it's just about the resources, so we won't run out of them.
Or not be
But
so
we-
mean to her.
Yeah, but we actually have a living intimacy with her.
Yes.
Yeah, that people don't quite get or understand. So she was showing me that, and the earth has led me on a pilgrimage of transmission, where I've been asked to enact certain ceremonies in certain places to create a transmission linked to many of the sacred places on the earth. So humans can go to these sacred places that just look like wilderness,
Mm-hmm.
and they will be able to feel and be linked to enlightenment, to the earth as well. So pretty cool, huh?
So that's a way for humans to be happy with the earth, or the earth to be happy with humans?
Yeah, both. So the earth is serving through their link with me, the enlightenment of all beings as well, and the earth is happy that people are working and loving enlightenment, and they feel that their ability, it's sort of like they don't have any legs, so they can't walk around. So if you didn't have any legs and you were blind, but you had this best friend who brought you places, and you could sense the place,
Yeah.
but they also described it to you, and helped you get around in it, you would feel the same transmission and happiness that the person that had all those facilities available
Right.
through them. And so the earth is linked to us in that way. It doesn't have all the same facilities that we have, and we don't have everything the earth has. We need the earth to sustain ourselves completely as a body mind.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make us dominant or dependent. It's not a power dynamic relationship. It's a cooperative sharing relationship. And the earth has its side of what it cooperates and shares with us. So the earth's been showing me that, and the earth is very happy right now what's going on. It doesn't feel that human beings are destroying everything and they're responsible for it. It knows your naivety.
Yeah.
It knows that you're subjected to a power dynamic. It doesn't feel that you're the power dynamic that's going to save it, nor does it feel that you're responsible for what's happening. It completely is in relationship to divine transmission, to its own self-awareness, but it's also cooperative in sharing, like having that friend who can show you, because you can't see or you can't walk, what it can see and feel. So it's in that. So we're all interrelated in a cooperative sharing voice of happiness, of enlightenment. It's not, like I said, we're not the race that dominates it or destroys it. We're not any of that. The animals have showed me, like in Earth 2, like they're going to evolve out of the power dynamic relationship they have with mankind. And so part of the story is symbolized by they go to another place where they get to evolve their own relationship and dynamic with the earth without that problem.
Yes.
Yeah. And throughout the years, I've had these very intense dreams in which animals of all kinds come up to me and they put their face to me and they don't want to leave. They just... And I had one when James was there and there was this horse and he was trying to get the horse to get his face off and he couldn't do it and the horse just wouldn't leave. And so I just kind of feel that they're going to be given an opportunity to evolve their own dynamic without the interference of this idea of the power dynamic. That the power dynamic sees the earth as a big storehouse for its own desires, and also that it has a right to it, entitlement to it, and it can do anything with it. And it doesn't really have its own voice or its own living relationship. And of course, the native people don't feel that way about the earth at all. They never talk that way about the earth.
Right.
But the developing ego patriarchy system, which we're at the crux of right now, and it's actually kind of destroying itself. I think right now it's all going bad. That's why the sense of our government is just chaos, isn't it? Just kind of a bad mess, and nobody even takes it seriously. Like now we don't worship those guys up there anymore. We don't take them seriously, so what does that mean? So a lot of things are shifting, but as it shifts, it always seems really bad, smelly as it goes down. So, but if people said, wait a minute, I have a bigger dream, I don't care if this is going down, this has never been my dream,
Right.
then you can continue, you can move forward. So my relationship with the earth has taken me on this long journey, and it continues to be a wonderful devotee in a wonderful way, and I've gone to different places and created links of transmission with the earth, and if people and animals itself go there, they can fill into that transmission and be enlivened at the heart with it. So those places exist, and I actually had a vision one time of being at Pinnacles in which I wasn't alive anymore, but people were going on pilgrimage there.
For you.
Yeah,
Yes.
because of those links I've created, and people's sense of knowing me was to go on the places I went to
Yes.
do this nature work. So people who had wanted to continue the natural evolution of this relationship to Earth,
Yeah.
and be a part of that dynamic of feeling the enlivening of the heart on both sides of it, that sharing of that awareness, that they would go on pilgrimages to places that I have spent.
Well,
time
thank
with.
you for that. That's a wonderful gift.
Yeah. So and so I had that vision that people would do that. That had that particular kind of need for that kind of nature and impulse. They would do that.
Yeah, James, did you recite Adida's word while she walked in nature?
Mhm.
And that video was tremendous. And that could be where people walk in the future to commune with you.
Mm-hmm. That was Lake Louise in Canada.
Lake Louise in Canada. God, that was amazing.
That's
Oh,
good.
God.
Yeah.
You could do millions of those forever.
Yeah.
Those nature trips
Yeah, we have
with
them.
you talking or,
Yeah. Yeah, he was actually thinking of the last one we did, Anne's Borrega one. She was thinking of reading something from a story as part of it.
Wonderful.
That's perfect. The more of that, the merrier.
Yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he's done really good work with that on
Yes.
camera.
Though the
2 years-
exquisiteness
2
of the
years
camera
ago.
work, even
Yes.
the flow and the nice quality. It's
It's
just
good. He's done good work.
it's good.
It's
It's
good. It's
like
really
nothing
good.
I've ever seen again. It's not
Yeah.
like a realizer that I know that Rama went on desert trips and with his devotees, but we don't have film of that.
I know. I wish there was.
Can you imagine?
I've been on some of them. They were so fun. They were so amazing. Yeah, I wish I was. I wish there was something like that had been done. But that was the '80s.
The big video cameras.
Yes, yes.
It's it does them at night too. So
At night,
Yeah.
the sensitivity.
yeah. So not last summer. The summer before. One of our purposes of going to Eastern Sarahs was to do a conclusive, all-including video of different places that I've hiked and that have become links, And so James would be, we would do like 11-mile hikes and things like that, uphill and altitude, and he's running up and down the hill with the camera.
Right.
And one particular day seemed to create the dynamic, or whatever's really difficult about it, but whatever's really thrilling. And we were going up Burrow Pass, which is out of Virginia Lakes, and we were going to go down Green Lake. And you get up, you at the pass, you're like 10,000 feet up. So you're pretty much hiking up maybe 1,000 feet, a mile, which is about as rough as it gets.
Yeah.
And so we're going up, and it's really windy, and he's trying to hold the camera and get in front of me and getting back me and take varied shots, varied footage. And every time we stopped, it was so windy, we're so cold. We couldn't sit for any more than 5 minutes, but it was so invigorating. The trail was, our thighs were burning out, our lungs were burning out, and we were trying to get through it, but we were just really cracking up. And after we completed that, we're like, wow, that was something. And what you don't see on some of that, another one, the panoramic trail, which is you go down from Glacier Point and you go by Illilouette Falls and you get to the top of Nevada Falls, and then you go down Vernal and all that I actually almost passed out for a while, and I was laying on the ground for 15 minutes. You don't see certain... We cut those part out. And then Lundy almost fell off the side of the cliff. I was like... so we've had some wild times, but they've been great. So. Okay, we're good?
We're good.
Everything? All right. That sounds fun, exciting.
Thank you so much, Santosha Tantra.
You're bringing to me at this point a certain response that I find, like I said, if I'm okay about taking on that archetype for others and empowering them or giving them transmission or being an example of being able to live the biggest dream, which is your awakening, to live from the heart. So I'm happy to do that. That's what I came here to do, and so I want everybody to, like I say in my own heart, I say, bless all beings of love, all beings of happiness, all beings of truth, and they all should have that opportunity to live all that and go for it, live it. So, and it's not some hippie shit.
It's not just hippie shit.
It's not hippie shit.